What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Sister Buzz. I feel like there's a lot to unpack in this episode, so let's just dive straight into things.
Let's do a life recap real quick because I'm in the midst of extreme chaos. Me and the boys have both been sick for a week, if you cannot hear it in my voice. Then like I've said before, I work with a political commission, and right now we have a program going on called Congress to Campus, where we have congressmen come in town. And so last night I had a congressman reception, and this morning I had to get up. I had to have Raymond bring the kids to school. Thank God he's home. And then I had to go to Nicholls State and show them around. Well, first I had to take them to breakfast. Then I had to show them around campus, take them to a class. Then I had to take them to lunch. And I had to also fit in recording this podcast and making sure my kids were taken care of. So I'm exhausted. I'm sick. I have no voice. And I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, which is actually just a typical day for me. So, it is what it is. I guess I hate that saying because it's like, oh, it is what it is, but it's like, some days you just can't change things. Like, it is what it is. Fuck it.
Which I think it's really funny because, like, when we first started this podcast, it was all because, like, I call my sister so often, like, literally 10 times a day to talk to her and the boys and, like, literally what's going on in the world. But these past few weeks, I cannot get a hold of her. Like, every single time I have a break and call her, she's not available. Anytime she has a break and calls me, I'm not available. So I feel like our lives are just not aligning right now.
No, and then it's like even the simplest things, like this morning, I really wasn't going to talk about this, but it's like this morning I was at breakfast with the congressman or whatever, and I get a phone call and it's my grandmother, and I'm like, oh, I just knew at that moment it wasn't good. And she's been taking care of my dog since our living situation got a little crazy. And we're currently in a camper, for those of you who don't know. And she called to let me know, like, one of my dogs had passed away. And it's just like, it's like when it rains, it pours. Again, another saying that's kind of like, oh, whatever. But it's just like everything is happening all at once that I feel like I haven't even processed Milan passing away. And I didn't even have time to have a conversation with her about it. I was like, I am so sorry. I can't have this conversation right now. I'm at a table and I can't cry. And I love you and thank you. And I will call and have a full blown, like, conversation later. And it's crazy. And I feel like I feel like I can't catch a break right now, but that's okay because, I'm blessed in so many ways and I have all these amazing things going on in my life that are keeping me really busy right now. So I don't want to complain, but you're right. Like, we haven't spoken very much lately because I don't even have a moment to answer the phone. I mean, yesterday the boys had Easter pictures. Then we had to come home. I had to get them ready. Raymond took them to a birthday party out of town and I had that reception and I didn't get home till 10 o'clock. And then I had to be up extra early to get ready for today and make sure their lunches were made and, they were ready for school before I could leave and go do the things that I'm able to do with my life.
Which, on top of all of that, if you guys can't hear, Brooklyn is also having some construction done outside of her office. So she literally just got into the office to film this podcast. And I'm like, what is happening?
Sorry,
you guys hear
sorry.
all the construction. Which, I mean, I've had a pretty busy weekend too. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a marketing student in college. And I have like a little side business, which I'll announce more about on a different episode when things are a little bit more established. But I basically did some marketing work for St. John's University here in New York. And I had to help like host a women's luncheon. Well, not really host, but like set things up and make sure everything is ready to go for Saturday. So last week was exhausting trying to prepare everything for that. And then so the women's luncheon is for International Women's Month. So if you guys don't know, March is International Women's Month. So
shout out to
all
the
women out there. Yeah. But yesterday I had a day off after a very, very long week, and obviously I had to watch the Oscars. And I kind of just want to jump right into this topic because social media is blowing up. So first, let's ease into it and just talk about the outfits. How did you feel?
Loved some, hated some. One of my favorites was probably Zendaya. I liked the new fresh way
Yes.
because okay, let's talk about this real quick. The Oscars are meant to be very formal and dressy. They're not the, Grammys or the People's Choice where, you're supposed to be like trendy and like take chances and blah 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 blah. It's supposed to be very formal. It's the highest honor, blah blah blah. But I think that Zendaya took a really good risk with which she wore. It was very classy, it was very beautiful, but it wasn't safe and your typical Oscar outfit.
Yes, I loved. So, if you guys haven't seen her outfit, she wore like this sparkly long silver skirt, and then she had like, I don't even know how to explain it, like a simple white long sleeve crop top, like almost like a tuxedo top that was cropped. Do you know what I'm trying to say, Brooklyn? Is that the right
Like a
terminology for
button-up
it?
shirt, like a
Yeah, sorry, a button-up shirt, exactly. I loved Zendaya's outfit, and then she wore her hair up. I think that she looked absolutely beautiful. Another one that I really, really loved, which going back to the first episode about influencers at the Oscars, is Addison Rae. I was not a fan of her outfit at the Met, but I loved her outfit last night. I felt like it was very chic. It was very like old Hollywood in a sense. Like it was this beautiful corset and simple jewelry with her hair back. 10 out of 10. Absolutely loved Addison Rae's outfit.
she was okay. She wasn't my favorite, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just not the biggest Addison Rae fan. I don't know. But I thought she looked good. I would give her like
I'm not
an 8
either,
out
but
of
she
10.
is from Louisiana,
She
so
is, and I guess I
we have
should
to
give her
support
more
that.
love for that. But
Yes,
her outfit
absolutely.
was nice. Wasn't my favorite, no. I'd probably give her an 8. Also, and I'm not judging the women, I am judging their outfits, okay? All women are beautiful. Shout out to women.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I did not like Kristen Stewart's outfit at all. I don't know what you thought about it, but that was one of the ones that I was not into at all.
So, again, this goes back to like Grammys, AMA, those kinds of things. That's more of like your risk taking moments. I think Kristen tried to pull a Zendaya where she wanted to take a bit of a risk. She wanted to look younger. She didn't want to be like the typical Oscar person, but I didn't love the shorts. I didn't love the messy hair. It just looked too
I didn't
thrown
think it was very
together.
flattering for her.
No, I feel like maybe on a Grammy carpet or something a little less formal, it would have been fine. Maybe something with the hair because I didn't love the hair. But I think she would have been okay. The Oscars, it just didn't hit it for me.
Well, for formal, like an actual like formal wear dress, I absolutely loved Venus and Serena Williams. I don't know if you saw their outfits, but they were so classic, so beautiful, and like so flattering for their bodies. They looked stunning.
I feel like the Williams sisters, they tend to do pretty well with, formal things. Like, I think it was Venus, or maybe it was Serena. I don't know. One of them went to like Meghan Markle's wedding. She looked beautiful there. Like last night, out of the two, the pink was my favorite over the white. I didn't quite love the boob area on the white. Like it was a weird cut to me.
See, I loved that. I thought it was beautiful.
Well, and I guess it's like to each their own, It's just a style. It's just a
Yeah.
preference. It's just a style thing. But like, I love the pink and the black and like the black glove touch. Like that to me was like really elegant and different and like just, it was fun without being like stuffy.
And then I saw, so Again, going back to episode 1 about the influencers at the Oscars, where I was talking about influencers being invited there, the couple that I was talking about hosting it actually hosted the Vanity Fair after party, which is a pretty big deal. Like, even a lot of people that don't go to the Oscars will typically go to the after party.
Right, celebs,
And I don't know
they
if
go party there instead of, they weren't invited, but they get to still party.
Exactly. So I don't know if you saw any of the outfits from the Vanity Fair after party, but let's just talk. It's funny because we keep talking about the Kardashians, but let's just talk about Kourtney Kardashian's after party dress. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think?
Like 7. I mean, it was basic. It was just black. Her hair was slicked back. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
That was her Oscars outfit.
Okay, I'm seeing it now. The tan and the black. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yes. See, I wasn't a fan of it.
Really?
I was not. Like, when I saw that, I love her hair. I love the slick back hair. And Kourtney Kardashian she's a beautiful woman, but I did not think that her after party dress was amazing. I would give it like a 4 out of 10.
I mean, I liked it better than her actual Oscar dress.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, it's a little more personality, but it wasn't my favorite. You see Kim's after party dress, like the full light blue.
What is up with these like washout colors for her? It's like head to toe pink or head to toe blue, or like, are you trying to morph into a rainbow ghost? Like, is one color your only palette at this point?
Well, when I saw the photo, immediately I'm like, Smurf. Like, the blue is the Smurf blue. But honestly, I think that like she looks really, really good in that color. But I just need to know if Kim Kardashian is wearing Oakleys, because I'm pretty sure our dad started the Oakley trend. So I just need to know if Kimmy K is taken after Daddy J.
Oh my God. Don't even put them in the same sentence. He will have a heart attack. He thinks that the Kardashians are a cult. I'm just saying. Like, they're not, but he thinks it sometimes.
Our dad owns like every pair of Oakleys under the sun.
This is true. I get in my car and there's like a random Oakley. Why are there Oakleys in here? Oh, I had to move your car. So you left your sunglasses? And no, sir. Take your things when you go.
Okay, what did you think of Jada Smith's Oscars dress?
First, I want to talk about Billie Eilish, because I feel like they're going to fall kind of in the same category.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like they were so puffy and big and heavy and just too much. Like, Billie Eilish and Jada are very small girls. Like, I don't know why you want to walk around with a huge ass duvet cover wrapped around you. It's not flattering to me. Like, I would have dressed them differently. Maybe that's their style. Maybe they're insecure, and so they feel like that's a good way of covering up. I mean, I think
Billie Eilish went to make a statement about, because Billie Eilish's whole thing is like to dress oversized so men can't see her actual body, like, figure. That's been like Billie Eilish's whole thing. And I think that Billie and Jada are both so beautiful, but Billie Eilish looked like a movie premiere curtain, and Jada looked like some kale.
Correct.
Like kale salad.
I don't get the trend. I get your point, or Billie's point, in like trying to cover your figure and like make a statement on that. So I guess I can let that one pass. But like Jada's was like a mermaid style, where it was like super tight at the top and then kale salad at the bottom. So I don't get that.
Yes.
But I guess, I don't know. Maybe she was in her feelings, because Will certainly was. I mean, can we talk about him charging the stage and slapping the shit out of Chris Rock? I mean, come on. What is happening?
But let's actually dive deep into like this whole situation, because I did watch the Oscars, but there was parts of it where I realized that I had an assignment due at 9:00 that I didn't do. So I stepped out into the office to do my schoolwork for a little bit, and Dylan came into the room to show me the video, but the video he showed me didn't show the actual context, like what Chris Rock had said. It was literally just Will on the stage and then smacking the shit out of him. So I'm like, I'm like, is this a PR stunt? Is this like a joke to where he's fake smacking Chris Rock and then helping Chris Rock like host, announce awards, whatever? Like, is that what's happening? And then I obviously went to social media as soon as I saw the video. I saw the whole thing of like what Chris Rock had said before Will went on the stage. But then I was even more confused because Will was laughing at the joke that Chris Rock had made about Jada. So I don't know if he was laughing because it hadn't registered in his head what he had just said about his wife, or if like his laugh was out of pure anger.
So again, I was at a reception dinner last night. I didn't get to watch it live. I didn't get to, have any updates till I got home or this morning when I had a couple minutes. But I did watch videos, so this is what I'm going to say. First of all, Chris Rock was presenting. He's a comedian. He's expected to make jokes, and he's expected to make jokes about the actors and actresses of the room. That is his job. That's what they've all done. That's what they've done for years. That's what they're going to continue to do. So if you can't take a joke, you shouldn't be there. Second of all, let's not turn to violence over things, because that's not okay. If you can't handle the joke, have a word after, whatever. Don't be violent, especially when you're being honored. You're there, Will. Like, let's keep your head up. Third of all, everybody's like up in arms about, oh, well, Jada has alopecia, which is a condition that causes her to be bald, and that's the whole issue. Does Chris Rock know that? How do we know that he knows that? We don't know. A lot of times there are people who write these jokes for these comedians. Those people probably don't know.
That's what I told Dylan. Yeah.
I mean, they don't know. Chris Rock doesn't know. He's just reading a joke from a monitor. He's a comedian. He's meant to make fun of anyone.
But Chris Rock took it like a fucking champ.
He
like,
stayed
honestly,
professional.
I don't know.
And that's what Will should have done.
Yes.
He should have stayed professional. It's a professional night. It's an honor ceremony. Like, get it together. Be a professional. Now, I will say I love Will Smith. I've always loved Will Smith. I've loved him since The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He is wonderful. I think Will is getting out of character. He has been in this very ugly medium eye of things ever since him and Jada started having problems. She has cheated on him publicly. She has, kind of challenged his manhood in a way, saying, oh, my husband would have known I was cheating on him if he really loved me. She's made statements that, I'm sorry, belittle him and make him look like a fool. And not everybody might feel like that, but there's a good chance he feels like that. And he was laughing, probably because he didn't see the harm in it. But then he looks over to his wife, who's looking at him like, I'm pissed. And he's probably in a state at this point.
Yeah, like, what are you going to do about it?
Right. He's fragile, and he's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to defend her? Am I supposed to sit here and take it? I'm sure he knows. He's been to enough of these things. Like, this is what happens. This is the gag. But she's looking at him like, homie better come get this,
the hell
man.
Up.
Yeah. So I think he did what he thought he had to do in the moment, which was out of his character. I think he tried to bounce back with his acceptance speech, which also kind of shame on Jada. This man is here. This was his third Oscar nomination. He has never won before. And here he is being honored yet again, being nominated. And you got him acting out of character on the night that he freaking wins his first Oscar. The night that he makes his own history. No one's going to talk about his Oscar.
Yep.
No one's talking about his movie.
No.
Everybody's talking about how he bitch slapped Chris Rock. Why? Because she couldn't take a joke. Get it together. It's not that serious. Don't take yourself that serious. And if you do, stay home.
At the end of the day, Will Smith did make the decision to go up there. Like, Jada didn't say, get off your ass and go do something about it. So there's really, like, I don't want to say that it's all Jada's fault for the face that she made, or maybe the conversations they're having behind closed doors that he needs to stick up for her, or whatever the situation may be. At the end of the day, Will Smith, as a man and as an Oscar nominee, chose to get out of his seat and walk onto the stage and do that. You know, like, there was so much controversy whenever the thing happened between Taylor Swift and Kanye West. Well, this is the next thing, and people are going to talk about it for years, literally for years.
No,
but
I
he
100%,
chose to do that.
I 100% agree. Will Smith is a grown ass man. He is an adult. He is the only person,
right? Exactly.
who he has to account for his decisions. He chose to walk on the stage. He chose to slap Chris Rock. He chose to cuss at him from his chair. He chose to try to bounce back. You know, he chose these things. So 100%, it is his fault. He made these decisions. I'm not saying they're not. But also, if Jada couldn't handle that and she needed, and that's how she felt in those situations, she should have stayed home. Because it's not fair to the person in the relationship who is being honored, who has the attention on them, for them to have to deal with someone else's emotions on their night.
Absolutely. And I do agree with that to a certain extent, because of Will Smith's success at such a young age. His family has always been in the public eye. And I'm not a wife, but as a woman in a relationship, like, you want to support your significant other in every way possible. So maybe, you know, you don't know going to the Oscars that you're going to be called out for being bald or whatever the case may be. But I don't know if she should have stayed home, because she was there ultimately to support him, because I'm sure she knew that there was a good chance that he would win this Oscar.
So yes and no. I'm not saying she should have stayed home. I'm saying, if you know you're going to a place where your husband is nominated in one of the biggest categories, you are going to be sitting center front. And these comedians, whether it was him, Wanda Sykes, Regina Hall, Amy Schumer, one of them is probably going to make a joke about you. If you can't handle the joke, if you can't participate in a professional way, then stay home. Yes, you should be there supporting your husband. Yes, you should be, front center with a smile on your face, doing the best you can. But if there's something going on that's going to push you to that limit to not be able to, stay professional, then you should have stayed home. Also, you can't put yourself constantly in the public eye. Yes, Will started it. I'll give him that. But Jada's an actress, and she started the Red Round Table or whatever that show is. And
yeah, I think so.
She's the one who brought her cheating to light, and discussed these things and said how Will didn't love her, if whatever, and
But in this exact
things,
situation, who's the one that acted unprofessional? Was it Jada, or was it Will that acted unprofessional? Because she just made a face. I mean, at the end of the day, she just made a face.
You're right. And we don't know what's happening behind closed doors. But my point is, if you're going to let things bother you and it's going to take one face for everything to be upended, maybe you should have rethought coming. You have drug y'all messiness out into the public. Y'all have done that.
Right.
So if it didn't have to be a bald joke. What if Chris would have made a joke about her cheating? Or them, having a throuple, or, polyamory, or whatever, because that's what they brought into the public. Would they have been able to handle that? If you can't handle the heat, stay out of the kitchen. You know what is coming at these award shows. It happens every year. It's not new. Like, deal with your issues or stay home.
No, I do agree with everything you're saying. Like, there's a lot of people that are on both sides of this, and I feel like I don't want to take a side. I feel like I'm very neutral. But I am very curious to see how this progresses. Like, because can he get like an assault charge?
Oh, for sure. Especially now that there's video, like, evidence. I mean, there's literally articles saying will Chris Rock press charges? He has the right to press charges. He did not
Right.
touch him back. He did not, he made a joke. He didn't provoke him in any way. I mean, some could say that
Right.
provoked him, but, he didn't physically provoke him. He didn't hit him. He didn't do anything. So Chris Rock can file assault charges if he wants. Will he? Probably not. But I mean, what will that do? It just makes him look like a little punk on a national stage. I mean, you got bitch slapped. Come on, move on. But I mean,
But a
that's
punk,
not good for Will Smith.
He took that like a fucking champ. Like
No,
literally
for
laughed
sure
it
he
off.
did. But I'm saying it'll make him look like a punk to use it for publicity, to get attention for it.
Yeah.
Like that's where.
Right.
No, he took the slap. I mean, he took it. He just stood there like, is this real? Is this real life? Again, back to, like you said, the Taylor Swift Kanye thing. She looked like a deer in headlights. Like, what is he coming up here for? What's happening? When someone not meant to be on the stage and they're walking up to the stage, you also don't know. I mean, in my mind, it would be like, well, I don't know what their mood is. I'm not trying to provoke them. Like, you take the mic, do what you want, like whatever. And then to get slapped in the face. And he didn't hit him back. He just stood there. I think he was just stunned. Like, is this real?
Yeah.
Is this happening? This can't be real. Because that's never happened before. It should never have happened. But, here we are. Poor Will gets his first Oscar, and this is all we're going to talk about. Not his work, just his action. And that's so sad that your whole life's work has now been dwindled down to one, edited clip of a slap. That's what you worked your whole life for.
And a meme that's going viral.
Yeah. And, I feel bad because it's like, I don't want his whole life being edited down to this, I believe that he is in a tough spot. He's having a rough relationship. And it's unfortunate that the media is so invested in that, because I know what it's like to have a relationship that isn't, I don't want to say not 100, because my relationship I've always felt has been pretty, tight. But having a long distance relationship with my husband, because he works away so much, it is easy for things to get stressed. You know what I'm saying? And when you're stressed about your relationship, everything else around you is stressful. When my husband is across the country and we may be disagreeing on something, I can't touch him. I can't feel him. I can't talk to him face to face. And that makes things harder. It makes things harder to fix. And so who knows the situation that's been going on with Will and Jada? Who knows what their relationship's been like? Because I know that when you are in a stressful relationship, everything else about you is just kind of falling apart a little. It's affected by that. And that's probably just what happened with him.
You're extra sensitive in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard.
Your emotions are all over the place.
And I mean, I know you struggled when Dylan was in Australia for 3 months having a long distance relationship.
3 months? It was 6 months. It was almost 6 months. It didn't feel
like 6 months.
Yeah. Well, Dylan and I. Well, no. At this point, we've lived together longer than we've been apart. But Dylan and I have pretty much done long distance up to like a year, and it is really difficult. During COVID, Dylan went to Australia, and I was in Louisiana. And the thing that we struggled with the most is time difference. Like, Australia is a day ahead of us, and while we're sleeping, they're starting their morning, and vice versa. So it was very difficult for us to actually find a time every single day to be together, honestly. Like, we used to watch movies together. I would watch a movie with him before I went to bed, and he would get up extra early to watch one with me. And we would literally just be like, okay, press play on 3, 1, 2, 3, play. Like, we would have to be creative and find ways to feel like we were connected in some sort, because we were so disconnected, being so far apart.
Well, and I will say, at least you didn't have kids, because kids bring a whole different element, Raymond, thankfully, he can call pretty much anytime he needs to because he's driving in a truck and, he has like a headset that he can like safely call. But, there's my kids will be like, well, where's daddy? Well, why isn't he home? Like, when's he coming home? And why can't he FaceTime while he's sleeping? He's been driving all night, or, he's driving and he can't FaceTime. Like, we can call and talk to him, but, that's like the extent of it. And I just feel like people who don't have to experience long distance relationships and those types of things, they don't really understand all the struggles that come along with like a long distance relationship.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even like short periods of times, like there's been summers where Dylan and I have just been separated for 2 months. And obviously, that's not as difficult as the COVID situation. Our cousin JoJo said something to me once, some sort of context like this. She was like, I never realized how strong like Chris and I's relationship was, or how much I love Chris or whatever, until we did long distance. And I do agree with that. Like when Dylan left to go to Australia for COVID, we knew nothing. We did not know when the next time we were going to see each other was. We didn't know how long this pandemic was going to last. We didn't know what the world was going to be like in 2 months. Maybe we would have been back together in the next month, but that wasn't the case. We were separated for like 5.5 months, I think.
Yeah, I mean, COVID, funny enough, COVID actually did the opposite for me because while Raymond is usually always gone, he was home for probably 6 months or better until we decided to start our company because he had been laid off and he was like, well, I can't just stay home. Like, we have to pay bills. So, I want to start this company, and thank God it's been successful. And, I will say any dream Raymond can dream, he can usually succeed at it. So I'm really blessed in that department to have him and his headstrong ways. But for the first time, and I couldn't tell you how long, I lived with him every day. And it's like, okay, kind of used to you not being here by now. Are you leaving yet?
Yeah, don't worry. I was also living with Brooklyn and Raymond and both of our parents during COVID. So I am well aware of Raymond being home for COVID.
Yeah, it was a bit of a full house, if I do say
It was
so
like
myself.
a sleepover that never ended.
It was the nightmare from hell is what it was. Okay. It was a sleepover you never want to have to attend for 6 months. Okay. 2 kids. One was a newborn. One was a 2-year-old, 2.5-year-old, your parents, Your husband, your sister who doesn't want to be there, wants to be in New York or with her boyfriend. Trust me, it wasn't fun for anybody, I don't think.
No, definitely not. I mean, when I moved back home for COVID, I was going through it so bad. I mentioned in the last episode that I had outgrown our hometown, and I felt like I was taking so many steps back. At that point, I had only been I was in New York for less than a year. I moved in July and then COVID started the following March. So I was in New York for less than a year, and I just felt like this may sound overdramatic, but honestly, I felt like my whole world was crashing down. Like, I was going back to the hometown. I was living back with my parents. Dylan was across the world. There was so many things that I felt that were against me, where I was really struggling emotionally living in that house with all of you. I mean, it was great. And honestly, that's probably the last time we'll ever have lived together. And I wish I would have maybe cherished it a little more while I was there. But, those are memories that I got with Holden and Rowan that maybe I wouldn't have gotten if I would have stayed here.
I know you cry all the time about not being able to see them or spend time with them. And it's like, well, you had months and you bitched for months. So now I really don't feel bad for you that
That's
you don't
not
get
true.
time.
I had a hard time bonding with Rowan because Brooklyn's youngest child had a lot of reflux issues and baby formula. And I think he was like maybe 3 to 6 months old whenever I came down for COVID. But I spent a lot of time with Holden. We watched that 70s show. We ate popcorn in bed every night together. The time I got to spend with Holden was amazing.
Yes, unfortunately, Rowan was a difficult child. And I mean, this is a topic for a whole nother day, but I think even me as his mother had a hard time bonding with him because I just wanted him healthy and okay, and I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with him for a while. And like I said, that is a whole different episode we will definitely cover later. But something else that COVID really gave me was time with Raymond to figure out co-parenting, because with Holden we only had one child. I was living in Metairie. I wasn't living at my parents', and Raymond was gone. So it was typically like, hey, this is the decision I made. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Or, maybe we should think about it. It was never really that hard. But then you have two kids, you have two parents fully present 24 hours a day. That had never happened for us. And then on top of that, we were living at my parents' house because of everything going on. And so you kind of like are parenting under your parents, which again is like a whole different animal, a different obstacle to deal with. And so co-parenting.
And with your sister, because when I was
yes,
watching
who also
Holden,
thinks she's a parent, by the way.
I was watching Holden, we were having cookies and ice cream for breakfast, and we were doing whatever we wanted because that's what godmothers do.
And not doing what mom said needed to happen, well, your mother said you can't have that. Well, my Nene said I can, and walks away.
Exactly.
Okay, little boy, you're about to get a slap because I'm not even dealing with you. No, I do not condone child abuse. But anyway, I'm just saying before I get hated on for that. But it really taught me co-parenting because I feel like, there's this misconception that only divorced people or separated people have to co-parent. And that's not true. Just because I'm married and I'm with my husband doesn't mean we don't have to co-parent. Two parents are never going to be on the same page for every issue. It doesn't happen. There are things that Raymond feels strongly about. There are things I feel strongly about. And we have to learn to compromise, work together, and make the best decisions for our children. And I think that, my 2 cents on it is I think that a lot of married couples and parents think that co-parenting is only when you're separated and that it just magically works out. And then they get this baby and they're like, wait, we don't agree on everything. What's happening? And that creates this divide that, is unfortunate because, children need parents. They need functioning parents and they need compromising parents, because a child who has two parents constantly at odds with each other, they don't understand what's happening. They don't understand the rules, and they're just as confused as everybody else. And so I think while it was hard, COVID really gave me a true sense of co-parenting with Raymond, and we were really able to establish some boundaries and rules and ways that we just wanted to proceed with our children in the future.
Definitely. There is this misconception about co-parenting, and that's why it's so important to talk about like your values and the way that you were raised, because you and Raymond were raised very differently.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and this goes back to our backgrounds, my parents were teenagers when they had me. My mom was 15. My dad was 18. They were children themselves when they had me. And Raymond was born into a very established family. His parents had been married
which our parents are still together, by the way. So
yes.
Literally since they first got together.
Yes, people ask us this too because we look so different. We have the same exact parents, same mother, same father. They have been together since before my birth. So,
and they are still nasty in love. Don't worry.
It's disturbing.
It's gross.
Nobody wants to see it. But, Raymond's parents had been married 6 or 10 years or something like that. When he was born, they had already had his sister, they had a little house, and his dad was, they were adults. His dad had served in Korea. They had lived in Korea before they started having kids. They really had kind of, got a lot of kinks out the system by the time Raymond came along. So he was just born into this family that was, just so full of love, and which we were born into love too, but, just it was just a lot easier of a process, I would say, than my parents, who were young and trying to figure it out. They were trying to figure out who they were. They were becoming adults, and here they have this child, and, my relationship's hard at 32. I can't imagine what a real relationship would be like at 15, but they've defied the odds and they've made it this far. But it just, the system wasn't as smooth with my family as it was with Raymond. And so I think sometimes Raymond forgets that not everything has to be so cookie cutter perfect. He'll be like, well, why can't we do it like this? And I'm like, because that's not the real world. Like, yes, I want my children to have, some of these values or whatever, but that's not how life works. We have to realize and teach them that sometimes things are hard and sometimes things don't work out the way we want them to. And you just got to fight through it and make the best of every situation.
Right. And I feel like not necessarily co-parenting, but from a relationship perspective, like Dylan and I were also raised very differently. Dylan is an only child, and his mom is an only child, and his father has one sibling. So the way that Dylan was raised is very different from us. Like, both of Dylan's parents are full-blown Italians, and they moved to have him in Australia. So, I mean, he's like fluent in Italian, both Italian and Australian. So our values are similar, but a lot of the times very different. And sometimes whenever there's like a fight between me and my sister, he doesn't understand why certain things happen, or if like Brooklyn and Raymond decide to do something with one of the kids. Dylan also has never been around children, so he is very protective of Holden and Rowan, even more so than I am. So when Brooklyn and Raymond decide to do something with their children that they had, Dylan is like, oh, well, why do they do that? Because it's like he doesn't understand certain things. And I'm like, you were raised in a completely different family than what we were raised. Like, and he's so oblivious too.
He is. Like, he really is.
He is the kind of person, like, so our car got broken into like 2 years ago in New York, and we walked outside of our apartment and my trunk to my car was wide open. And he said in his Australian accent, "Oh, Maddie, I think I left the trunk open last night." In the middle of New York. And I'm like, Dylan, we were robbed.
That's not, it's funny too. I will do a horrible Australian accent, so I'm going to apologize to any Australians from this day forward who listen to this podcast. When I do a Dylan impersonation, my accent is not on point. But he'll call me and he'll be like, "Brooklyn, what are you doing with these children?" Like, Dylan, first of all, bro, it's none of your business. Second of all, let me explain to you so that maybe one day you'll be, an effective parent. He's like, "I just don't understand why we have to do it like this." Dylan, when did we become a we? This is not you and me, bruh. These are my kids.
He is very protective over Brooklyn. Like, whenever Brooklyn and Raymond are like talking about, their children or whatever decisions they're going to make about schools or sports or whatever, Dylan is like, "Brooklyn, did you talk to Raymond? Does he understand where you're coming from? Is he listening to what you want?"
Dylan is my number one hype man. He's like, "You make sure you tell them what you want." I'm like, okay. Or like if me and Maddie get in a fight, Maddie doesn't know this, but he'll call me and be like, "I totally get where you're coming from, Brooke. It's okay. It's okay." I'm like, Dylan, I know.
I think your accent is getting worse by the minutes that are going on.
Terrible. It's just terrible.
But funny enough, Dylan actually sent me an article the other day. I mean, Dylan and I have been together. We're going on 4 years now. Eventually, we'll get married, we'll have children, whatever, not anytime soon. But he shared an article with me about like why people wouldn't want to raise their kids in America. Like families that have, two parents that are from different countries, why would you choose to raise a child in another country versus America? And the article was very interesting, and it brought light to a lot of things. And honestly, I don't know if we'll raise our children here in America. I mean, just like safety, for example, like when I went to Italy over Christmas to visit his family, I didn't feel unsafe walking at night by myself. There was never a question of like, oh my God, am I in danger? Where's the nearest exit if something were to happen? Whereas in New York, I'm constantly looking around me and I'm like, holy shit. Like, is today going to be the day that something unfortunately happens to me?
But that's also just situational awareness too, because, there's definitely places where you can walk at night and never feel unsafe. New York is not going to ever be one of them. And while I do
For
agree,
sure. And there's places in New York where you can do that, where you can walk and feel safe.
Well, that's just like when I lived in Metairie. Metairie is a suburban outskirt of New Orleans. When I said, oh, Raymond and I are buying a house in Metairie, everybody in the family was like, oh my God, you're going to get shot. The crime in New Orleans is the worst, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, it's not that bad. Where I live is super duper safe. Like not, but every country has its pros and cons. And I love Italy, been to Italy, but would I raise my kids there? I don't know, because, and not to get political, but like, look at the COVID pandemic. They were hit really hard. They don't have the medical advancements we have here. So,
Yeah,
that's
sure,
one side of it. Just like Australia, they have a lot of great things. Their government really, has really perfected a few things that I think would be great universally across the board for everyone. But then there's other policies in Australia that I'm like, that just doesn't make sense. And so raising my kids, all I can do is raise them where I feel the most comfortable. And right now that's here.
Well, I think our biggest thing is the healthcare. And again, not to get like all political, but Dylan, who has only one kidney, comes to America, and there have been times where like even our mom had to take him to urgent care one day, and it was thousands of dollars. Like the treatment for him, his friend, his British friend had to get an ambulance somewhere, and it was $5,000. And our whole conversation is, unfortunately, I mean, especially with like this thyroid thing that I'm currently dealing with and that you're dealing with, like if we have children and let's say that is genetic, what we're thinking in our head is, okay, well, what are all these doctor's appointments going to entail? How much is this going to cost us? It's like health expenses that are scary. Just for like me to have a child would be so much more expensive. Whereas you go to Australia and it's free healthcare there.
And you're right. And that's one of the things that I'm like, I wish we could find a way. Canada has healthcare like that. Australia has. I think it's something, for politicians to figure out.
For sure.
I'm very political. But like Dylan, I could be very political, but that's not what this podcast is about. I'm not trying to get on a political rampage here.
He comes from somewhere where like he has never really had to pay, and then he's going to these like doctors because he's sick one day, and he's like, holy shit, like this is crazy. And I'm like, yeah, it is.
But they also pay higher taxes generally, and here
yes, they do.
You pay lower taxes, but then you have insurance. So Correct. I hit $2,000, my deductible, which that's not my deductible, but, I hit my deductible and then I don't have to pay anything for the rest of the year. Whereas does that equal the amount of taxes they pay extra? If they pay $10,000 in extra taxes, well, then I'm better off here in America where I only pay $2,000 for my deductible and I call it a day. I'm out $8,000 over there if that's the case.
There's a lot, obviously, to think about, especially when you're with someone from another country. I mean, of course, there's like differences and there's pros and cons, but to kind of like cycle back to the co-parenting thing, like that's something big that Dylan and I are going to actually have to sit down and eventually talk about one day. Like we have 3 countries. We have America, Europe, and Australia that we can live in. Our children and I will be citizens of all 3 countries.
Europe is a continent, not a country. You mean Italy.
Oh, sorry. Italy. Look, the bottom line is we will have some serious like co-parenting decisions that will eventually have to be made. But even outside of co-parenting, like just in relationships in general. Like, we have three places that we can live. Where's the best, where's, the opportunity for us? He doesn't want to be away from his family that's in Australia. I don't want to be away from my family that's in Louisiana. Where are jobs going to be? Like, there's a lot of things to unpack here. Like, we have to start making some serious decisions, and that's scary.
I think you always just take the information you have at the moment and do the best you can with it. I mean, I chose to move to Arkansas at one point. I chose to move to Baton Rouge at one point. I chose to move to Metairie at one point, and I chose to move to Houma. Life is fluid. You could always change. No decision you make today is 100% definite, tomorrow. I mean, and I say that about most things,
right?
But,
for sure.
So you just have to do the best you can. Don't stress about, oh my God, how much is it going to cost for me to have a baby and healthcare? Because, the healthcare thing, like, while it is an issue, and I do understand, like, Dylan coming from a country where it's free to not free, that could be a very big issue.
Yeah.
But, like, don't let that make a life decision for you when, your opportunities could be greater because, in spite of that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, those are just things that, like, we talk about in our relationship because we want to make sure that we're always on the same page. And, we have to be educated on what's going on in Australia and Italy because he has family in both places, So just in general, it's very important for us to just have a good understanding on what's going on. The biggest thing to me is, like, I don't want to be away from you guys. But on the other side of it, like, Dylan has always been away from his family, and I don't want that to be the case forever. And, it would be one thing if, like, Dylan's parents were in Italy and it's like, oh, an 8-hour flight from New York to Italy and then a 3-hour flight from New York to Louisiana. But Dylan's parents are in Australia. Like, that's a 20-something hour flight that if we lived in Australia that we would have to do for me to come and see my family. Like, there are some days where I wake up crying and I call my sister and I'm like, okay, I miss Holden and Rowan. This has gone on for too long. I have to see them. And I can book a flight and be there in 3 hours.
Right. And I think that's not that I don't believe you, because I do believe you. And I've had discussions with Dylan and I know, what he wants in life. But, like, when y'all talk about leaving, I'm like, you're never going to leave. I know you're not, because you can't be that far away. You just, and I honestly, Dylan, I know you're going to listen to this. You can't be that far away either, because you're just as attached to those kids as Madison is. So you can tell yourself whatever you want, but we all know the truth. Good day, mate.
But thankfully, I do have a partner that's willing to be away from his family because he knows that that's not something that I can handle.
Well, and not, fortunately, in a sense, he doesn't have that much family. He just has his parents. So there's a greater possibility that his parents could come to y'all versus y'all having to go to his parents. They might decide they want to come here, and then that issue might just kind of wash itself out.
Well, Dylan's mom's dream is to live in New York City. So we never know what's going to happen. And thankfully, Dylan's parents love to travel. I mean, they've seen us in New York, I think 3 times now since we've moved here. And then obviously they, flew us out to Italy, and this summer they're flying us out to Australia. So I am very grateful to, eventually have in-laws that are willing to travel because our parents are not willing to travel.
Yeah.
Mom and dad are not going to get on an airplane.
They're like, oh, we'll get on an airplane for the right reason. They went to New York once Mom's gone to New York. I know. More, but Dad's only been in New York once when we went for Christmas 10 years ago.
But I do understand that to an extent because, like, our father works so much. So I can't imagine, him wanting to take 3 hours out of his time off, get on a plane, go to New York, where I can, if I have some extra time, just fly down to Louisiana. I do understand in that.
Well, it's always easier for one to fly to many instead of many flying to one.
Exactly. Right.
But we'll work on them traveling. It is what it is.
Well, I hate to break it to all of you, but I'm probably getting married in Italy, so.
Hey, that's a trip for me to Italy as long as you're paying for it.
You're my maid of honor, Brooklyn. Don't you have to pay for your own trip?
Also, I'm booking
I'm just messing with you.
Also, I'm booking my children's flights next to yours, not me. I'll be in the last row. Y'all can be in the first row.
I am not engaged by any means, nor will I be engaged anytime soon, just so we can clear the air on that one.
Yeah, because Dylan thinks you have to be 47 before you get married. I told him your eggs are going to be dry and dusty by the time he gets to it.
Stop it, Brooklyn.
The truth be the truth.
Oh my goodness. No, Dylan and I have a lot of living and traveling to do before we want to get married or have a family. We just want to be in a very happy spot in our relationship. So
my favorite's when you're like, we're going to have a kid together. I'm going to be done having kids long before you get on that train, okay?
Oh, yeah. Brooklyn means like we both have kids at the same time so that our children will be close in age. But clearly she has no intention of that.
None.
All right, guys. Well, this concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you connect with us on all our social platforms at The Sister Buzz. And if you guys have any topics or questions you'd like us to talk about, please feel free to DM us on any of our accounts.
Yes, and if you're loving our podcast, please make sure to leave us a rating, whether it's 1 star or 5 stars. We'd rather 5 stars, but you can do that on any of your favorite podcast platforms, as well as leaving a review. And make sure you tune in to us weekly. We have new episodes every Thursday. Like I said, you can find us on Spotify, Purple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and more. This has been your Sister Buzz with Brooklyn and Maddie. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.